Hello. Thank you for joining us here at Economics Caveat, the place to stay tuned on current world events. Today we are talking about China. China is making headlines once again, and not because of just one story. From economic uncertainty and military activity to technological competition and international diplomacy, several major developments are unfolding at the same time. Together, they paint a picture of a nation trying to strengthen its position at home while expanding its influence abroad. So, what's happening inside the world's second largest economy? Let's take a closer look. The first major story is China's economy. For months, policymakers have been working to revive consumer confidence and stimulate growth after a prolonged slowdown. Investors around the world are watching closely because fresh economic data expected in the coming days could reveal whether the country's recovery is gaining momentum or losing steam.
The property sector remains under pressure. Consumer spending has not fully returned to pre-slowdown levels, and manufacturers continue facing weaker global demand. At the same time, Beijing is investing heavily in advanced industries like artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, robotics, and semiconductor development, hoping these sectors will become the next engines of economic growth. But economics is only part of the story. China is also drawing attention because of its growing military activity. Recent naval operations and missile testing have generated concern across the Asia-Pacific region. Chinese and Russian naval forces are conducting another round of joint exercises, while Beijing continues demonstrating increasingly sophisticated military capabilities. Supporters describe these activities as routine exercises, designed to improve readiness. Critics, however, view them as part of a broader effort to project military power and reshape the regional balance of influence. As neighboring countries monitor these developments, defense cooperation throughout the Pacific continues to evolve. Technology is another battlefield where China is moving aggressively. Artificial intelligence has become one of Beijing's highest priorities. Chinese companies continue developing new AI models, expanding cloud infrastructure, and investing billions into domestic chip manufacturing. This push is about much more than commercial success. Technology has become a strategic competition involving national security, industrial independence, and long-term economic leadership. The race to build faster processors, smarter AI systems, and more resilient supply chains is increasingly shaping global politics as much as global business. Diplomatically, China is working to strengthen relationships across multiple regions. Recent high-level meetings have highlighted Beijing's desire to reinforce long-standing partnerships while maintaining its role as a major international power. At the same time, Chinese officials continue balancing relationships with countries that often have competing strategic interests.
This diplomatic approach reflects a broader objective: expanding China's influence without becoming directly involved in every international conflict. Whether that strategy succeeds remains one of the biggest geopolitical questions of the decade. Back inside China, another issue has captured national attention. A deadly factory fire has renewed concerns about industrial safety and workplace oversight. The tragedy has sparked discussions about emergency preparedness, inspections, and accountability for companies responsible for protecting their employees. As China continues expanding its manufacturing sector, maintaining safety standards remains an ongoing challenge alongside economic growth. Meanwhile, climate and infrastructure remain major priorities. Flood control projects, disaster preparedness, transportation networks, and energy security continue receiving significant government attention as officials work to strengthen resilience against increasingly frequent extreme weather events. These investments are not only about protecting communities, they are also intended to support long-term economic development across the country. So, what does all of this tell us? China is entering another critical period. Its leaders are attempting to stabilize the economy while investing in next-generation technologies. They are modernizing military capabilities while expanding diplomatic relationships. They are managing domestic challenges while competing for greater influence on the global stage. Each of these developments carries implications far beyond China's borders.
Financial markets pay close attention to China's economic performance. Regional governments monitor its military activities. Technology companies watch its innovation strategy. And policymakers around the world continue adjusting to China's growing role in international affairs. The coming weeks will provide important clues about where the country is heading next. Will economic growth begin accelerating again? Will technological investment translate into global leadership? Will regional tensions increase? Or will diplomacy ease concerns? Those questions remain unanswered. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear. China's decisions no longer affect only China. They influence global markets, international security, emerging technologies, and the geopolitical landscape itself. And that's exactly why the world continues to watch every major development coming out of Beijing. The headlines may change from day to day, but one reality has remained constant. The war between Russia and Ukraine is far from over. Every sunrise brings fresh reports of explosions, drone attacks, missile interceptions, and fierce battles stretching across hundreds of miles. For millions of civilians, another day begins not with certainty, but with the sound of air raid sirens, and the hope that this won't be the day their neighborhood becomes the next target. Despite years of fighting, neither side appears willing to back down. Russia continues to push forward across several sectors, applying relentless military pressure while attempting to wear down Ukrainian defenses. The advances are often measured in small distances rather than dramatic breakthroughs. But every village, every crossroad, and every strategic position carries enormous importance in a conflict where even minor gains can reshape the battlefield. Ukraine, meanwhile, has adopted a different approach. Rather than focusing only on defending its front lines, Ukrainian forces are increasingly looking beyond them. Long-range drone operations have become one of Kiev's most powerful tools, targeting military infrastructure, fuel depots, logistic hubs, and command facilities far from the front. The objective is clear: make it harder for Russia to sustain the war by striking the systems that keep its military machine moving. This is no longer a conflict fought only with tanks and artillery. Today's battlefield is filled with technology that would have seemed almost futuristic only a few years ago. Small drones hand armored vehicles. Larger unmanned aircraft travel hundreds of miles to strike strategic targets. Electronic warfare systems battle for control of the skies, while sophisticated air defense networks race to intercept incoming missiles before they reach populated areas. In many ways, this has become the world's largest testing ground for modern warfare. But behind every military development lies a far more human story. Families continue to live under the constant threat of attack. Entire communities have spent years adapting to blackouts, damaged infrastructure, and repeated evacuations. Schools, hospitals, apartment buildings, and public services have all felt the impact of a conflict that shows little sign of slowing. For those living through it, there is no such thing as a normal day anymore. The international dimension remains just as significant. Ukraine continues to rely on support from its partners, particularly for advanced air defense systems capable of protecting cities from increasingly complex missile and drone attacks. Discussions continue over expanding military production and strengthening Ukraine's ability to manufacture more of its own defense equipment, a move that could prove increasingly important as the conflict continues. Meanwhile, Russia has shown no indication that it intends to abandon its long-term military objectives. The Kremlin continues investing heavily in military production, while maintaining pressure across multiple fronts. Analysts remain divided over whether either side can achieve a decisive breakthrough, but many agree on one point: this conflict is becoming a battle of endurance. Success may depend less on spectacular victories and more on which country can sustain its economy, replace military equipment, train new personnel, and maintain public support over the long term. And that may be the most important development of all. This war has evolved into something much larger than a fight over territory. It has become a contest of industrial capacity, technological innovation, intelligence, logistics, diplomacy, and national resilience. Every shipment of equipment matters. Every successful drone mission matters. Every intercepted missile matters. Every political decision made thousands of miles from the battlefield can influence events on the ground. Diplomatic efforts continue to surface from time to time, but the gap between the positions of Moscow and Kiev remain enormous. While discussions occasionally raise hopes for negotiations, military operations continue with little indication that either side is prepared to make the concessions required for a lasting peace. That leaves the world watching a conflict whose outcome remains deeply uncertain. The front lines continue to shift. The technology continues to evolve. The humanitarian toll continues to grow. And with every passing week, the consequences extend far beyond Eastern Europe, influencing global security, military strategy, energy markets, and international politics. The biggest question now isn't whether the war is still active. It clearly is. The real question is whether the next chapter will bring a major military turning point, or simply another phase in a conflict that has already reshaped the geopolitical landscape. One thing is certain: the Russia-Ukraine war remains one of the defining conflicts of the 21st century. And the decisions made in the coming weeks and months could shape international security for years to come.